Cambridge, England, 1913. One morning, a respected British mathematician named G.H. Hardy received a strange letter from India. The man who had written it was almost completely unknown to him. He had no university degree, he was working as a clerk, and he lived thousands of kilometers away from Cambridge. But page after page of the letter was filled with extraordinary mathematical formulas. At first, Hardy didn't know what to think. Who was this man? Where had these ideas come from? Hardy studied the formulas more carefully, and slowly he realized something remarkable. The stranger who had written this letter might be a mathematical genius. His name was Srinivasa Ramanujan. Welcome to TalePath English. If you enjoy learning English through stories like this one, subscribe to TalePath English and join us for more. But to understand how that letter reached Cambridge, we have to go back to a boy in southern India who saw numbers differently from almost everyone around him. Srinivasa Ramanujan was born in southern India in 1887. His family was not wealthy. His father worked as a clerk in a cloth shop, while his mother cared for the family. As a child, Ramanujan showed an unusual ability with numbers. But mathematics was not simply a school subject to him. It became an obsession. While other students followed their lessons, Ramanujan pushed himself far beyond what was being taught in class. As a teenager, he discovered a book containing thousands of mathematical results. For most students, it would have been an ordinary textbook. For Ramanujan, it opened a new world. He began working through the problems himself. Then, he went further. He started discovering mathematical relationships and formulas of his own. Soon, notebooks began filling with numbers. Page after page, formula after formula. He had found the thing he loved. But that passion was about to come at a price. Ramanujan was brilliant at mathematics, but there was a problem. He became so focused on numbers that he neglected his other subjects. He had earned a scholarship to study at college, but his poor performance outside mathematics caused him to lose it. Imagine that. A young man with an extraordinary mathematical mind could not succeed in the educational system around him. He tried continuing his studies elsewhere, but again, mathematics consumed almost all his attention. Eventually, he left college without a degree. Now, his future looked uncertain. He had talent. He had notebooks filled with ideas. But talent alone did not pay for food. It did not guarantee a career, and it did not make the world notice him. For years, Ramanujan continued working on mathematics while struggling to find a secure place for himself. The world had not discovered him yet, and perhaps it never would. Ramanujan needed work. Eventually, he found a position as a clerk at the Madras Port Trust. During the day, he handled ordinary office work. But mathematics never left his mind. When he had time, he returned to his formulas. His life now seemed divided between two worlds. In one, he was an ordinary employee, earning a modest salary. In the other, he was exploring mathematical ideas that very few people could understand. Some people in India began to recognize that his work was unusual. They encouraged him to contact mathematicians overseas. So Ramanujan made a bold decision. He would send his work to some of the world's leading mathematicians. He wrote letters explaining who he was and included examples of his discoveries. Imagine sending your life's work to someone who has never heard your name. then waiting, hoping that someone, somewhere, will recognize what you can do. Some attempts brought little success, but Ramanujan kept trying. And then, in January 1913, he sent another letter. This one was going to Cambridge. In January 1913, Ramanujan's letter arrived in Cambridge. It reached G.H. Hardy, one of Britain's leading mathematicians. The letter was unusual. Ramanujan introduced himself as a clerk in Madras, earning a modest salary. Then came page after page of mathematical results, many presented without proofs. Hardy was skeptical. Was this genuine mathematics, or had the writer simply copied ideas from somewhere else? He showed the letter to his colleague, J.E. Littlewood. The two mathematicians began examining the formulas. Some were familiar. Some seemed wrong or incomplete. But others were unlike anything Hardy had seen before. The more they studied them, the harder they became to dismiss. This unknown clerk in India was doing something extraordinary. Hardy wrote back. For Ramanujan, that reply changed everything. After years of working largely outside the academic world, someone thousands of kilometers away had finally recognized the value of his ideas. But recognition was only the beginning. Soon, Ramanujan would face an even bigger decision. He would have to leave India. Hardy wanted Ramanujan to come to Cambridge. But for Ramanujan, traveling to England was not a simple decision. It meant leaving his home, his family, and the world he knew. At first, he resisted the idea. Eventually, however, circumstances changed, and in 1914, Ramanujan agreed to make the journey. He boarded a ship and left India for England. He was 26 years old. Behind him were years of uncertainty, unfinished education, financial struggle, and notebooks filled with ideas. Ahead of him was Cambridge, one of the most respected centers of learning in the world. Ramanujan could not know what awaited him there, but he knew one thing. For the first time, he was going somewhere his mathematics would be taken seriously. Cambridge was very different from India. The weather was colder, the culture was unfamiliar, and Ramanujan was far from his family. But mathematically, something remarkable was happening. Hardy and Ramanujan began working together. They were very different. Hardy had been trained in the rigorous traditions of European mathematics. He wanted careful explanations and proofs. Ramanujan often seemed to arrive at answers through intuition. He could see patterns that others could not. Sometimes he wrote down extraordinary results without showing every step that led him there yet. Hardy helped him express those ideas in ways that other mathematicians could verify. Ramanujan, meanwhile, showed Hardy mathematical possibilities he had never imagined. Their differences did not prevent them from working together. They made their collaboration valuable. Over the following years, Ramanujan produced important work in areas including number theory, infinite series, and continued fractions. The clerk from Madras was becoming internationally recognized. The recognition Ramanujan had once struggled to find was finally arriving. In 1918, he was elected a Fellow of the Royal Society, one of Britain's most prestigious scientific institutions. That same year, he became a Fellow of Trinity College, Cambridge. Think about how far he had traveled. Years earlier, he had left college without a degree. He had struggled financially. He had worked as a clerk while filling notebooks with mathematics in his spare time. Now, Some of the world's leading scholars recognized his extraordinary ability. But while his professional life was reaching remarkable heights, another part of his life was becoming increasingly difficult. Ramanujan's health was failing, and success could not protect him from what came next.
Ramanujan had suffered from serious health problems during his years in England. In 1919, he returned to India. He was finally home, but his health did not recover. Even while seriously ill, Ramanujan continued thinking about mathematics. Ideas still came. He continued writing. In April 1920, Srinivasa Ramanujan died. He was only 32 years old. His life had been remarkably short. But his mathematics did not disappear with him. The notebooks he left behind contained ideas that mathematicians would continue studying long after his death. Some of his work would influence mathematical research decades later. The young man who once struggled to convince the world that his ideas mattered had left behind a mathematical legacy that could not be ignored.
Ramanujan's story is about mathematics, but it is also about something much bigger. For years, the world had little idea what he was capable of. He had no university degree. He lost a scholarship. He struggled to find his place. And many of his ideas developed far away from the great universities of Europe. None of those things meant that his ideas had no value. Sometimes talent appears in unexpected places. Sometimes the person who does not fit the usual path is capable of seeing something others cannot. And sometimes one opportunity, one letter, one person willing to look more carefully can change a life. Ramanujan's story also reminds us that recognition may take time. Being overlooked does not mean you have nothing to offer. Failure does not always mean you are on the wrong path. More than a century later, mathematicians are still studying ideas connected to his work. The unknown clerk from Madras did not remain unknown. His numbers traveled farther than he ever could. And his story continues to remind us, your beginning does not decide how far your ideas can go. It's time for questions. Write your answers in the comments. Have you ever been good at something that other people didn't immediately recognize? And what can Ramanujan's story teach us about failure